The air in the opulent ballroom shimmered with the scent of money, ambition, and expensive cologne. Damien Van Doren, CEO of Van Doren Industries, felt utterly out of place. He was a man of algorithms and bottom lines, not small talk and canapes. He'd only attended this charity gala out of obligation. His alpha pheromones tightly reined in, a polite mask plastered on his impossibly handsome face. Then he saw him, across the room, tending to a display of intricate floral arrangements, was an Omega unlike any he'd ever encountered. His dark hair curled artfully around a sharp jawline. His eyes, the color of moss after a spring rain, sparkled with a mischievous glint. He moved with a dancer's grace, his form slender but subtly curved, a vibrant splash of color in the sea of monochrome suits. Damien felt a primal pull, an instinct he usually ignored, but tonight, after 3 weeks of non-stop work and a particularly infuriating board meeting, his control was loose. "Good evening." Damien's voice was a low rumble, startling the Omega, who nearly dropped a delicate orchid. The Omega recovered quickly, a playful smirk touching his lips. "Evening, Alpha. Enjoying the flora?" Damien found himself unable to look away from those eyes. "More than I expected." He extended a hand. Damien Van Doren. The Omega's hand was surprisingly strong, his skin soft against Damien's calloused palm. "Leo Sterling. And yes, these are mine. I own a little shop, the Daily Grind and Grow, coffee and plants, my two great loves." "And what about your third?" Damien found himself asking, a boldness he rarely exhibited. Leo's chuckle was a melodic sound. "Wouldn't you like to know?" His scent, a delightful mix of fresh earth and something sweet, like warm honey, began to unfurl, subtly drawing Damien in. It was intoxicating. Hours later, after a whirlwind of witty banter, stolen glances, and an undeniable current crackling between them, Damien found himself unlocking the penthouse suite of the hotel, Leo Sterling laughing softly beside him. The champagne had flowed, the music had pulsed, and the initial spark had ignited into a roaring flame. Inside, the city lights twinkled outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Leo's scent was now a heady cloud around them, mingling with Damien's own rich, powerful alpha aroma. There was no need for words. Their eyes met, a silent agreement passing between them. The night was a blur of heated touches, soft moans, and whispered promises never meant to be kept. It was raw, intoxicating, and utterly freeing for Damien, who rarely let down his guard. Leo was passionate, responsive, and seemed to understand his unspoken desires. As the sun began to paint the sky with hues of peach and gold, they lay entwined, the remnants of their shared passion still clinging to their skin. Damien, for the first time in years, woke up with a feeling of genuine warmth, a relaxed contentment he didn't recognize. Then reality, a cold, hard alpha, kicked in. He had a board meeting in 2 hours, a transatlantic call before that. He was Damien Van Doren, a man who didn't do one-night stands, let alone linger after them. Panic, swift and efficient, flooded him. He slipped out of bed, dressed quickly, and before he could overthink it, scrawled his number on a napkin, leaving it on the bedside table with a stack of bills. A business card felt too personal. The cash felt less so. Then he was gone, a phantom in the early morning light. Leo woke hours later, blinking against the unfamiliar light. He stretched, a contented sigh escaping his lips, a rosy blush coloring his cheeks as memories of the night flooded him. Then his eyes landed on the napkin. His smile faltered, then dropped entirely. Money, and a scrawled number. "Oh, you absolute prat," Leo muttered, crumpling the napkin and tossing it into the bin. His honeyed scent, just moments ago warm and inviting, now held a sharp edge of disappointment and irritation. "Well, Mr. Van Doren, thank you for the experience, and the very clear message." He swore he could still feel a strange tingling deep within him, a lingering echo of the alpha's power. He dismissed it as an after effect. It definitely wasn't anything more. 3 months later. "You're green, Leo. Greener than your prize-winning fiddle leaf figure." Maya, Leo's best friend and barista extraordinaire, peered at him over the steaming espresso machine. And you haven't touched your coffee. That's like a level 10 something is wrong alarm. Leo clutched his stomach, which had been churning for weeks. It's fine, Maya. Just a bug. Or stress. The cafe isn't exactly booming. The daily grind and grow was his pride and joy. A cozy haven of artisanal coffee and thriving greenery in a slightly off-the-beaten-path neighborhood. But thriving described his plants more than his profits lately. Maya sighed, wiping down the counter. Look, your omega instincts are usually spot on. If you feel off, you are asterisk off. Go see Dr. Eris. Please? For me. Reluctantly, Leo agreed. Dr. Eris, a kind, no-nonsense beta, took one look at Leo's pale face and ordered a blood test. A few days later, the phone call came. Leo? It's Dr. Eris. We got your results back. Her voice was calm, but Leo's heart pounded. You're pregnant. Leo's world tilted. Pregnant? But that's impossible. I'm on inhibitors. They're usually infallible. His mind raced back to that night. The alpha, the sheer overwhelming power of him, the way his body had reacted. No, surely not. Inhibitors aren't 100%, Dr. Eris explained gently, especially with a strong alpha and, well, exceptionally fertile biology. Omega biology can be surprising. And Leo, there's something else. She paused, and Leo's blood ran cold. It's not just one. Not just? Congratulations, Leo. Dr. Eris's voice held a note of amusement now. You're expecting triplets. Leo stared at the phone, then at his reflection in the cafe window. Triplets. 3 tiny beings. From him. From a one-night stand with a pompous alpha who'd left cash and run. He burst into hysterical laughter. Then tears. Oh, you absolute prat. He mumbled again. But this time, it was aimed at a different person, himself. He knew with absolute certainty he couldn't tell Damien Van Doren. That man was a billionaire. He'd probably try to buy the babies. Or worse, ignore them. Leo was going to do this alone. 6 months later, Leo's bump was no longer subtle. It was magnificent. A monument to his stubbornness and burgeoning family. He waddled around the daily grind and grow, now nicknamed the Daily Grind and Grow and Glow by Maya, who found endless amusement in his ever-expanding circumference. His back ached, his feet throbbed, and his hormones were a roller coaster. The cafe, surprisingly, was doing slightly better. Local moms loved the plant-filled, cozy atmosphere, and tourists stumbled upon it, charmed by Leo's feisty resilience. Still, triplets meant a monstrous amount of future expenses. He was scraping by, but worry gnawed at him. On a particularly hectic Tuesday, a sudden gust of wind blew open the cafe door, sending a cascade of dried lavender petals scattering across the floor. Leo, precariously balancing a tray of lattes, sighed. Honestly, some people... He looked up, and his breath hitched. Standing in the doorway, framed by the chaos of petals, was Damien Van Doren, taller, sharper, and even more impossibly handsome than he remembered. He was wearing a suit so perfectly tailored it looked painted on, exuding an aura of controlled power and expensive cologne. Damien, for his part, frowned at the floral anarchy. His assistant, Eleanor Vance, had insisted he try a less predictable coffee spot to clear his head. He'd agreed mostly to shut her up. He scanned the quirky cafe, his gaze landing on the pregnant Omega struggling with a tray. He felt a strange jolt, a faint echo of a familiar scent, a warmth that resonated deep in his alpha core. He paused, trying to place it. Can I help you, Alpha? Leo's voice was crisp, cutting through the sudden stillness. He didn't recognize Damien immediately. The last time he'd seen him, Leo had been half-naked, blurry-eyed, and far less voluminous. Damien blinked. He knew those eyes, but the rest... My apologies, he said, his voice deep. The door. I'll just... He bent down with an awkward grace to scoop up some petals. Leo scoffed. No need. Maya, can you sweep up for our distinguished guest? Maya, who had just emerged from the back, took one look at Damien. then Leo's growing belly, and her eyes widened in dawning horror and hilarious recognition. Oh, right. Distinguished guest. Coming right up. She scurried for a broom, sending a frantic, questioning look at Leo, who pointedly ignored her. Damien, now standing fully, finally focused on Leo's face, and then on his considerable bump, and then back to his face. The connection hit him like a rogue satellite. Those eyes, that mouth, and that scent now stronger, mingled with something else, something softer, distinctly omega in nesting. A wave of utter confusion and something akin to recognition washed over him. "You're Leo?" he asked, the name feeling surprisingly right on his tongue. Leo narrowed his eyes. "Do I know you, Alpha? You look vaguely familiar. Did you buy a particularly demanding Monstera from me?" Damien felt a flush creep up his neck. Demanding Monstera, right? No, we met at the Thorn Gala about 6 months ago. Leo's face went from guarded to horrified. His hand instinctively went to his belly. "Oh, you're him." He said it like Damien was a particularly virulent strain of bacteria. Damien stared at the bump, and then back at Leo. 6 months. The gala. The one-night stand. The inexplicable pull. The undeniable scent that was now screaming mine at his alpha brain. A cold dread, mixed with a dizzying rush, began to pool in his stomach. Are you pregnant?" he asked, a question so incredibly idiotic it made Leo roll his eyes. "No, Alpha," Leo drawled sarcastically. "I'm just hiding a particularly large watermelon in there for the summer solstice." "Yes, I'm pregnant. What does it look like?" Damien's usually razor-sharp mind was short-circuiting. The implications. The math. 6 months ago. A one-night stand. An Omega. Pregnant Omega. His jaw tightened. And the father? Leo gave him a withering look. "Honestly, Alpha, is that truly any of your business? I assure you he's long gone. A fleeting memory. Like a bad dream you can't quite shake." Damien felt a strange pang. A primal instinct, deeper than logic, screamed mine at him. He recognized the slight tilt of Leo's head, the way his lips pressed together when he was annoyed, the vibrant energy that had drawn him in, and the scent. It was undeniably his. It was the same scent, now deeper, richer, protective. His alpha roared. This Omega, his pregnant, with his pup. The thought hit him like a brick made of gold. "I need a coffee," Damien said, his voice surprisingly calm despite the internal chaos. Black, strong, and a very, very quiet table. Maya, who had swept up the petals and was now hovering, ready to call for backup, nearly dropped the broom. This was going to be good. A week later, Damien Van Doren, a man who once considered a 2-minute deviation from his schedule a catastrophic event, now found himself sitting in the daily grind and grow every morning. He ordered the same black coffee, sat at the same quiet table, and pretended to read financial reports while secretly observing Leo. Leo, for his part, found Damien's sudden, quiet presence both annoying and strangely comforting. He'd occasionally catch Damien's gaze, a flash of something unreadable, concern, curiosity, in those sharp eyes. Leo's Omega instincts, usually so good at reading people, were completely baffled by this man. He was infuriatingly aloof yet undeniably present. One morning, Leo tripped over a rogue plant pot, sending a shower of soil onto the pristine shoes of a customer. He braced himself for a complaint, but before he could apologize, Damien was there, not helping him up, but kneeling with a small, embroidered cloth napkin from his suit pocket, meticulously wiping soil from the customer's shoes. "My apologies, madam," Damien murmured, his voice surprisingly gentle. "My associate is a little distracted these days." Leo gawked. "Your associate? I'm your what now?" Damien stood, handing the surprisingly clean napkin back to the customer, who was beaming, clearly charmed by the Billionaire Alpha's impromptu shoe-shining service. "You run a fine establishment, Mr. Sterling, and I'm becoming a regular. One might even say I'm invested." His eyes, when they met Leo's, held a deeper meaning. Leo felt a prickle of unease. Invested in what exactly, Alpha? Your coffee, Damien said smoothly, but his gaze drifted, almost imperceptibly, to Leo's belly. And perhaps, the future of this delightful establishment. Maya, who had witnessed the entire exchange, nearly choked on her latte. Invested, she mouthed silently at Leo, making air quotes around the word. He's stalking you. Leo, however, was starting to feel something else. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth spreading from his belly whenever Damien was near. His Omega instincts, once so confused, were now sending little tremors of recognition. He attributed it to the pregnancy hormones. Definitely hormones. 2 weeks later, the cafe's ancient espresso machine decided to stage a dramatic protest, sputtering, hissing, and finally dying with a pathetic wheeze. Leo was on the verge of tears. He had no funds for a new one, and repairs would take days. Well, this is just peachy, Leo muttered, staring at the deceased machine. Triplets, dwindling funds, and now a silent coffee shop. Fantastic. The next morning, as Leo arrived, a brand new, gleaming, state-of-the-art espresso machine sat on the counter. A small, anonymous card was attached. From a friend who appreciates good coffee. Leo stared at it, then looked across the street to Van Doren Industries' imposing tower. He knew. He absolutely knew. The Alpha was playing games. He was simultaneously furious and touched, and incredibly confused. Later that day, Damien sat at his usual table, observing Leo's delighted, and slightly bewildered, customers enjoying perfectly frothed lattes. He felt a quiet satisfaction. He'd also discreetly paid off the cafe's overdue utility bills and arranged for a new, stronger door to be installed. He wasn't sure why he was doing it, beyond an insistent hum deep in his chest. His Alpha was telling him to protect, to provide, even though his conscious mind was still reeling from the implications of a 6-month-old one-night stand resulting in whatever Leo was carrying. He knew he had to confront Leo, properly. Not with a mumbled, "Is that a watermelon?" but with facts. He'd secretly gone through the gala guest list, checked the dates. It matched. The intense, heady scent he was now picking up from Leo was undoubtedly the nesting pheromones of a very pregnant Omega. And that scent was screaming mate. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. He watched Leo, graceful despite his considerable size, laughing with a customer. A strange wave of protectiveness washed over him, fierce and sudden. He walked up to the counter, his usual poker face firmly in place. "Leo," he began, his voice deeper than usual. "We need to talk. Somewhere private." Leo's eyes narrowed. "I'm working, Alpha. And frankly, I don't think we have anything to talk about that hasn't already been clearly communicated by a crumpled napkin and a wad of cash." Damien flinched. "Right, that." He cleared his throat. "About that. It was a mistake, an error in judgment. I should have handled it differently." He almost choked on the words. He, Damien Van Doren, admitting error? Unheard of. "Oh, you think?" Leo retorted, crossing his arms over his bump, looking utterly formidable despite his size. "Leo," Damien pressed on, ignoring the barb, "I have reason to believe that what you're carrying might be mine." Silence descended upon the cafe. Maya, polishing a mug, froze. A customer, mid-sip, nearly sprayed coffee across the table. Leo stared at Damien, his mouth agape. "Are you out of your mind? My babies are mine. And what reason exactly? You left me money, Alpha. You ran. My Alpha instincts have been screaming at me for weeks." Damien blurted out, losing his composure. "Your scent. It's changed, it's protective. And it's mine. And the timing matches. And the doctor said you were pregnant 6 months ago. Didn't she?" He hadn't realized he knew that detail until he'd said it. He'd clearly been doing more than just buying coffee. Leo's face went white, then mottled red. "You've been spying on me? Observing?" Damien corrected, a faint flush touching his own cheeks. And I saw you leave the doctor's office weeks ago. My office overlooks it. He gestured vaguely towards his imposing tower. Leo's jaw dropped. The cafe fell silent. Maya slowly backed away, grabbing a bag of coffee beans to hide behind. You colossal, intrusive, oblivious alpha prat. Leo finally exploded, his voice echoing through the cafe. You thought I was pregnant with your baby, and you chose to spy on me? To observe? And then you gift me an espresso machine instead of, I don't know, asking if I was okay? Damien winced. I was processing. There's a lot to take in, Leo. I didn't know. I swear, I had no idea my inhibitors had failed, or that your omega biology was so potent. And then seeing you here, pregnant, it was a shock. He paused, looking genuinely bewildered. And then the scent. It's so strong now. Calls to me. It's comforting. Leo wanted to scream. He wanted to throw a plant at him. But beneath the fury, a tiny, almost imperceptible warmth spread through his chest. He looked at Damien, really looked at him. The alpha seemed genuinely dumbfounded, almost panicked. His powerful alpha scent, which usually radiated dominance, now held an underlying note of anxiety and bewilderment. Oh, you really didn't know, did you? Leo said, a sudden, weary realization washing over him. All this time he'd believed Damien knew and just didn't care. Now he saw genuine shock. Damien shook his head, looking utterly lost. No, I swear, I would have done something. I wouldn't have just left a napkin, or bought an espresso machine, though it is a very good machine. Leo felt a hysterical laugh bubble up, quickly turning into a sob. The stress, the hormones, the sheer absurdity of the situation overwhelmed him. He started crying, big, messy omega tears. Damien, utterly horrified, instinctively reached out, then pulled back, unsure what to do. Leo, don't cry, please. What can I do? Maya, ever the hero, rushed forward with a box of tissues. He's about to pop, Alpha. You made him cry. This is not good for the babies. Damien's eyes widened. Babies? As in, plural? Leo, through his tears, managed a watery, sarcastic sniff. Oh, Alpha, you haven't even heard the half of it. The next day, Damien Van Doren, CEO, sat in Dr. Eris's office, looking like he'd been hit by a very elegant, very large truck. He held Leo's hand, which was sweaty and surprisingly small in his own. So, to recap, Mr. Van Doren, Dr. Eris said, adjusting her glasses, a slight smirk playing on her lips. Your omega, Leo, is approximately 28 weeks along. And yes, as he mentioned, you are expecting triplets. 2 alphas, 1 omega. All healthy. And quite active, judging by Leo's complaints. Damien stared at the ultrasound screen. 3 distinct little forms squirming within Leo. Triplets. 3 of them. 2 alphas and an omega. He felt a profound shift within him. A tectonic plate moving his entire world. Fear, certainly, but also an overwhelming surge of protectiveness, of possessiveness, of a fierce, blinding love for these tiny beings, and for the omega carrying them. Triplets, Damien whispered, his voice hoarse. Triple the everything. Leo, still slightly miffed but also exhausted, squeezed Damien's hand. Triple the chaos, Alpha. Triple the sleepless nights. Triple the diapers. Are you sure you're ready for this? Damien turned to Leo, his eyes unreadable, then surprisingly soft. I wasn't ready for one-night stand to turn into this. But now that I know, Leo, I'm not going anywhere. I promise. His thumb gently stroked the back of Leo's hand. We'll do this. Together. Dr. Eris cleared her throat. Now about nesting. Leo, are you feeling any urges to collect materials? Arrange things? Leo flushed. Maybe a little. My entire apartment is currently covered in cashmere blankets I couldn't afford and a shocking amount of baby clothes. Damien's eyes lit up. Cashmere? Excellent. I'll send over my decorator. And a team to baby-proof the entire penthouse. Or we could buy a new house. Whatever you need, Leo. Whatever the babies need. His alpha instincts had gone into overdrive, shifting from bewildered confusion to hyperfocused prevision. Leo gave him a wry smile. Alpha, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but let's maybe take it one cashmere blanket at a time. And I think my apartment is fine for now. He knew, instinctively, that Damien was trying to make up for lost time. And while he appreciated it, he also needed space to breathe. The next few weeks, life with Damien was a whirlwind of the absurd. He was determined to be the most involved, most supportive alpha father on the planet, despite having absolutely no idea how to do it. He insisted on accompanying Leo to every prenatal appointment. During Lama's classes, he was a spectacle. He attempted the breathing exercises with the focused intensity of a CEO analyzing quarterly reports, nearly hyperventilating in the process. When they were told to practice changing a diaper on a doll, Damien meticulously studied the instructions, then proceeded to fold the diaper into an origami swan. Alpha, Leo sighed, watching him. They're not going to need a diaper swan. Just a diaper. Efficiency, Leo, Damien explained seriously. A well-folded diaper is a happy diaper. Maya, who had occasionally joined them for moral support and endless amusement, buried her face in her hands. He's going to be the most impractical, well-intentioned father ever. Damien also took his investment in the daily grind and grow very seriously. He started showing up not just for coffee, but to optimize workflows. He implemented a new POS system, renovated the back office, and even started a small online plant delivery service. Leo found himself with a thriving business, more money in his account than he'd ever dreamed, and a bewildering amount of new tech. Honestly, Alpha, Leo grumbled one morning as Damien installed a ridiculously complex coffee bean grinder that looked like it belonged in a laboratory. Do we really need military-grade bean processing? Only the best for my Omega and our future family's coffee needs, Damien said, not looking up from a diagram. He still hadn't quite settled on our babies, but our future family's coffee needs seemed to work. Despite his exasperation, Leo couldn't deny the quiet thrill he felt when Damien's presence filled the cafe. The alpha scent, now fully recognized by Leo's Omega, was a constant, soothing anchor, and Damien's hand, resting lightly on Leo's back, or the small, tender pats he'd give Leo's belly when the babies kicked, sent shivers through Leo. He was falling for this ridiculously awkward, utterly devoted alpha. One evening, Damien showed up at Leo's apartment with a small, discreet security detail, just in case, and a very large box. What is this, Alpha? Leo asked, eyeing the box suspiciously. It's a nesting supply delivery, Damien announced, beaming. He opened the box. Inside was an array of plush blankets, scented candles, all earth and honey, perfectly matching Leo's scent. A new, ridiculously soft ergonomic pillow, and a small, handmade wooden mobile of 3 tiny hummingbirds. Leo stared at the mobile. It was simple, beautiful, and utterly unexpected from the billionaire alpha. His eyes welled up. Did you make that? Damien cleared his throat, a faint blush creeping up his neck. I commissioned it, with very specific instructions, for our Omega pup. He reached out, hesitantly, and gently cupped Leo's face. Leo, I'm so sorry I wasn't there from the beginning, but I'm here now, for you, for them. His voice was rough with emotion. Leo leaned into the touch, a soft purr rumbling in his chest. You aren't you, Alpha? He felt a deep, instinctive nodding within him. His Omega, starved for an Alpha's unwavering presence, was finally settling. Damien leaned down, his lips brushing Leo's. It was a soft, tender kiss, full of unspoken promises. More than you know. The day Leo went into labor on a particularly busy Saturday, right in the middle of a latte art competition he'd organized for local baristas. One moment he was judging a swan-shaped foam, the next, a searing pain ripped through his lower back. Oh, Alpha! Leo gasped, clutching the counter, his knees buckling. I think this is it. Damien, who had been meticulously timing the competition, because of course he had, dropped his stopwatch. His powerful alpha scent spiked with pure panic. Is it the babies? Are they early? Are you okay? Maya, ever the calm in the storm, was already on the phone with Dr. Eris. Hospital. Now, get him in the car, Damien. The drive to the hospital was a blur of contractions, panicked instructions from Damien, and Leo's increasingly sarcastic remarks. Ow! Alpha! Stop hitting potholes. You're supposed to be a billionaire. Can't you afford smooth roads? I'll buy the city, Leo. I'll repave the entire highway system. Just breathe. Breathe with me. Damien was breathing so erratically, he looked like he was about to pass out. At the hospital, Dr. Eris was waiting. Eleanor Vance, Damien's ever-efficient assistant, was already there, having magically prepared everything, including an emergency supply of Leo's favorite tea and 3 impeccably folded cashmere blankets. The labor was long, arduous, and utterly chaotic. Damien, initially horrified by the raw intensity of it all, quickly became Leo's unwavering anchor. He held Leo's hand, wiped his brow, whispered reassurances, and glared menacingly at any nurse who dared suggest Leo wasn't doing perfectly. You're doing amazing, Omega, Damien grunted, his own face streaked with sweat, as Leo roared through another contraction. Just a little longer. For our pups. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the first cry filled the delivery room. It's an alpha, Dr. Eris announced, holding up a squalling, red-faced bundle. Damien's eyes, full of tears, fixed on his son. He felt an indescribable surge of emotion. Minutes later, a second cry. Another alpha. Leo, exhausted but glowing, managed a weak chuckle. You're making a football team, Alpha. Then, after a slightly longer push, a third, smaller but equally strong cry. And our little Omega. Dr. Eris beamed. Damien was speechless. He watched as the 3 tiny beings were cleaned and brought to Leo. 3 of them. All Leo's. He felt his alpha heart swell to bursting. He leaned down and kissed Leo's damp forehead. You did it, Leo. You were incredible. His voice was thick with emotion, utterly raw. Leo, holding his 3 precious babies, looked up at Damien. His eyes, though tired, shone with love and a profound sense of completion. We did it, Alpha. 1 month later, life with triplets was beautiful, messy, and utterly overwhelming. Damien's penthouse, once a minimalist shrine to efficiency, was now a colorful explosion of baby gear. Designer bassinets nestled beside high-tech changing tables. Cuddly toys spilled from baskets. The scent of milk, baby powder, and happy Omega/Alpha pheromones permeated every room. Damien, the ruthless CEO, was now Damien, the doting alpha father, changing diapers with surprising dexterity, though still occasionally making diaper swans for show, burping babies with intense concentration, and cooing at them in a voice no one at Van Doren Industries would ever believe. His board meetings were punctuated by urgent calls to Eleanor about formula brands or diaper deliveries. Leo, tired but radiant, thrived in the love and support. He breastfed, managed the cafe. Maya was now a co-owner, thriving under the new management and customer base, and laughed more than he ever had. His Omega instincts had finally found their true home. One quiet evening, with the triplets finally asleep in their custom-designed nursery, Damien and Leo sat on the plush sofa, sharing a rare moment of peace. Leo leaned his head on Damien's shoulder, utterly content. You know, Alpha, Leo murmured, tracing patterns on Damien's arm. I still can't believe you didn't know. Triples. And you, a man who runs a multi-billion-dollar empire, completely oblivious. Damien chuckled, tightening his arm around Leo. My world was algorithms, Leo, not biology. But now my world is you. And them. He kissed the top of Leo's head. And it's a much better world. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Leo lifted his head, his eyes widening. Leo Sterling, Damien began, his voice a little shaky, a rare vulnerability showing. That one-night stand was the biggest mistake and the greatest blessing of my life. I messed up. I was an idiot. But I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. and to our 3 amazing pups. I love you, Leo. Will you make me the happiest, most ridiculously chaotic alpha father in the world? And marry me? Leo's eyes welled up with tears. This time, tears of pure joy. He looked at Damien, this incredible, infuriating, utterly devoted alpha. He thought of their 3 little bundles, nestled safely in the next room. He thought of the laughter, the chaos, the unexpected love that had blossomed from a single, forgotten night. You absolute alpha prat, Leo whispered, a radiant smile on his face. Of course, I'll marry you. Damien's grin was blinding as he slipped a simple, elegant band onto Leo's finger. He pulled Leo into a deep, loving kiss, sealing their new beginning. The scent of their intertwined pheromones, now a permanent fixture in the Van Dorn penthouse, spoke of a family found, a love forged in chaos, and a future brighter than any algorithm could predict. And somewhere, in their sleep, 3 tiny pups stirred, their own scents mingling, completing the perfect, unexpected symphony of a family of 5.